Okay, we're going to do this again because I was getting no reading on the volume. I don't know if you heard any of that. So ignore what I just said. Let's start over. Hello. I'm going to start right from the very beginning because you might have missed that because it was for my AirPods, which are over here and not on me. Okay, so Resilience Reset. Today is the book review day. And I'm going back to one of the very first books I've read in my summer reading, which is called Badass Habits. And I apologize in advance for the fact that I am using a potty mouth again today because my mom told me I was a bit of a potty mouth yesterday. So I'm sorry if you have little ones around, but whatever, we'll get over it. So Badass Habits, if you have habits in your life, I've read a lot of books on habits. I mean, I do some work with people on their habits and helping to interrupt the patterns is more what I'm all about. Like, let's find the things we don't want to be doing and figure out how do we interrupt them. And that's what I talk about in Take Back Your Weekends, stress less, do more, and be happier. But this book, I'll admit, was not on my original reading list of 33 books for this summer. Actually, I think it was 30 that I started with. Let me find it. Here's the reading list and the look, but I added it in because I was waiting forever for Amazon to get to me. And I didn't have a book to read. Like, I was like, I had all these books. I'm like, bring them. And I went to Shoppers Drug Mart and this was the only book available. And I was like, I guess I'm reading Badass Habits. And oh my gosh, am I ever so happy that I did, because it is a really powerful book. So I'm really excited to unpack some of these details. Let me know in the comments if you've actually read this, and that's great. So Amanda, I'm glad you can hear me. And I just, I hope that people could hear me when I had the AirPods on, but well, I had them as my input, but I didn't have them on. They were on the desk. Okay. So I've written down some highlights that I've made. And what's interesting is this book is effective because I actually know that since reading it, I have used the philosophies in the book and have successfully managed to change some mindset and some habits that I was trying to just sort of, I thought, well, I'll apply and see, okay, what would I want to change? And so I did apply it. So it did work. The way you're supposed to read this book is you initially read the first half, and then you start your day one and you go through for 21 days and you're supposed to read all the way through, and it just kind of keeps you going. Well, those of you who know me, I didn't do that. No, I read it in a night. I figured 2 days or something. Actually, I'll bring up my notes too. So I didn't do that. And I think it would have been even more effective had I have stretched it out beyond. So if you're going to do it, I would get, really curious if that's the better way for you to address and use this book. So I forgot that I made tons and tons of notes. 12 rules for life, mindset. Okay. Scaling. Okay. Got it. First of all, I didn't know I was going to love Jen Sincero's, I don't know how to say her last name, as much as I did, but her writing, like, no wonder she is a multiple New York Times bestseller, #1, multiple books, like, great. You kind of feel like you're chatting with her, very funny, very matter of fact, a little bit in your face, few swear words, definitely really got that power. And she talks about how there's a trigger. So something happens. So let's think, as we're talking through this, like, think about what's a habit that you would want to change. Like, what are you trying to change right now? And so she talks about there's a trigger and then there's a sequence, right? So the trigger produces a need, which produces a response or a habit, which gives you some sort of a reward, even if it's not the reward that you really want. And so I also look at this as it's like we're trying to figure out, how do we not change the behavior, but how do we catch it before it happens, so we can at least assess, do we want to change the behavior, or what are we going to do in this moment? Because I think sometimes what happens with our habits is we're all of a sudden doing all this stuff and you're like in the middle of it and you're like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Or it's after you've done it. And the whole point of self-awareness is to try to inch up so that you can interrupt and get aware of, oh, wait a second, this trigger is about to happen. Or, this person who, when I'm with this person, I tend to do X, right? Like there are certain friends of mine who I know if I go over to their place, like it's going to be a 2:00 in the morning ordeal and probably a little bit too much red wine. And it just because they just keep pouring your glass or whatever. So I know that's a trigger. I mean, I don't do that very often, obviously, but I wouldn't go to their place on a Tuesday night, right? So try to interrupt that because then I'll lose Wednesday morning. Just an example that might come to mind. Here's a question I wrote down. I don't know if it came from a book or just whatever it was. It was a part of the book. Am I addicted to feeling bad about myself? She talks a lot about you have to identify, your subconscious mind won't override your identity. So if you are addicted to feeling bad about yourself because you don't have a really great self-confidence, or you are, we talked about this yesterday, beating yourself up with your internal messenger of bullshit that's got a lot of negative soundtrack for you. Okay. If you identify with that person, anything you do to try to change the habit is not actually going to work, because your identity is so strong, and your subconscious mind, and that's what I was writing down here, is your subconscious mind wants to, if it thinks something bad of yourself, you have to be able to override that core confidence, that core belief of what you deserve and how you show up. And if we don't deal with that, then the habit's not going to go away. Okay. All right. Some of the key things here. Oh, and this is one of the things on page 106. Identify as the person who isn't screwing around this time. Identify as the person who has already nailed this habit. And so when you think about that, how powerful that is, I'm just going to pull that page up. If you think that you're someone who is glamorous and always gets dolled up and, it's not how I think of myself, for the record. Anyway, I don't know where it came from. But if you think of that as your identity, then what are you going to do every day? You're going to be like, oh, well, then I got to get all glammed up and get my makeup on and my nice, my nails done and all of that. That's the essence of who you are. If you're someone who you think is absolutely incredible at sales, I can sell ice to an Eskimo, then you're going to take action to make that a reality. It's also true on the other end. If you think you're someone who just can't get things right, you're always screwing up, or, and this again feeds back into yesterday's topic around a negative self-talk. But if you think that negative way about yourself, then you're going to do everything in your conscious power, or subconsciously, to bring that into alignment. So I'll often tell the story of one of my clients who used to tell me she was awful at everything. Right. And so she would I'm awful at sales. I'm awful at HR. I'm awful at this. I'm awful at that. I'm like, and you know what? Her business was stalled. Her business was going quite awfully, if I dare say. But she was reinforcing that had become her identity. So if you are someone who wants to, I don't know, what's a habit? Start flossing your teeth, or start making your bed every morning, or start running 5K, then you need to see yourself as the person who runs 5K, or the person who never leaves your bedroom in the morning without your bedmate, or see yourself as the friend, like the person who goes to the dentist and gets bonus marks for saying, I've flossed twice a day. Okay. Oh, right. Okay, I'm just looking at another note here. So one of the things she talked about, now how did I come up with that? Was that hers or was that just mine? Habits that need an upgrade. Okay. So she says this, and this is so powerful. So I'm going to back up on this because I know this is hers. She said, what are habits that I already rock? Because so often we can think of ourselves as not being good at changing habits or creating new habits. But the truth is we are already one big walking habit. So we are masters at creating habits. And so what we want to do in her thing, and I thought this was a really fun exercise because I geek out on stuff like this, is habits that I rock. So make a list of a minimum of 5, but go higher. Habits I've successfully created. So there are habits that are just the things that you do, like you can put down, brush your teeth, floss your teeth, make your bed. I'm responsive to people. I, have whatever, a great skincare routine. And then habits I've successfully created. So things that you at one point said, I want to do this. And now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years later, you're like, of course I do that. It's just who I am. So there are things we've done our whole lives. There are things that we've actually created. And then we want to look at the habits that need the upgrade. And she recommends not doing too many at once, like just sort of picking one that really would be important to your life. Now, the thing that I think was so pivotal, and I don't know where I came up with this, but it was about being proactive around, I think this was just my little thing, so I won't mention it in this book, but it's like, if you can work back a habit and be like, okay, or not even the habit, if you can work back the outcome that you want to achieve. So I want to have 100 speaking engagements this year. Okay. Let me put it out there. I want to be speaking as often as I possibly can to audiences and getting them all fired up and ready to go and be resilient in their lives and, eliminate destructive stress. And yes, I can continue to do all my proactive marketing, which is working great, like where I do the videos and people get to know me and, all of that, and the media campaign for the book. But if I really, really, really want to achieve that, I can't leave it up to chance. And so the habit for me that I chose to focus on was, how can I proactively sell my speaking, something that I haven't really done a lot of in 15 years in business, because usually it just comes through referrals and there always seems to be enough and it works out, but not this year. This year, I'm on a mission. We're going to help millions of people, and let's make it happen. And so I worked it backwards. I said, okay, if the outcome is this, what daily habit do I need to have in order to choose or to achieve that outcome? I love one of the sayings, not from this book, I don't think, but from something else long ago, is the concept that have a plan that makes success inevitable. And so that's what I worked out here. If I want 100 gigs this year, and I'm going to focus on proactively finding those instead of just letting them walk in the door, knowing about my close ratio when I talk to, or I get shortlisted for a conference, then work that backwards to figure out exactly how many outreach I need to do each and every Monday to Friday. That's proactive. And so now I just put it in my calendar. It's and if I have to miss a day because I'm on the road or I'm with clients or, whatever, then I just stack it on to another day so that by the end of the week, I hit the total goal. And so I all of a sudden, through this process, became the person who just identified as somebody who does proactive sales. And it was a totally new identity for me, by the way. Totally new. And then the next piece that came out of this was, I'm going to fall in love with that process. instead of feeling like I'm reaching out to people and having to sell my services, I believe, and I do believe this, that I'm reaching out to people to serve them, and that they need what I need. And if they don't need what I need, or what they need, what I offer, and if they don't need what I offer, then that's fine. There are billions of people in this world, and I need to find the millions who do. So falling in love with the journey is so critically important if we want to create the outcomes, and then having the habits, the small steps along the way that will get us there. All right, well, let's go back to the book. This is what the riff is. So, hey, by the way, in the comments, feel free to add in your best tips on how you create new habits. Let me know, share, because this is like, there's no wrong answer in this situation, because for every person, we need to look at what it takes for us to recognize the patterns we want to change, have the self-awareness to find the triggers that are making them, so that we can start interrupting the patterns, and then taking action to actually make them happen. So very cool. She talks on page 99 about having the attention on your desires that are fueling the desired habit, not on the habit itself. So that is where, like, I think from the perspective that I was just sharing about if you're falling in love with the outcome and you know why you're doing it, and that's fueling you because you have a bigger purpose and you want to serve people, and so you need to do this habit every day to make that happen, then that overshadows if you were just like, I'm just going to do 5 outreach a day. Like, that could sound really boring and not inspiring, but when you attach it to something that really matters to you, that'll make it stick. Okay. Beliefs. She talks a lot about how our beliefs inform our habits, and questioning as adults, where did our beliefs come from? Probably not from a conscious creation point of view. We probably didn't sit down and go, okay, what is my actual belief on this? We just learned as children from our teachers, from our parents, from our friends, from our, people on the playground, strangers we met. We just started formulating all these different beliefs as a child when we really didn't have any sense of perspective. We didn't have a sense of, do I really believe that? Like, do I want to believe that for my life? And now she's saying, you know what? You can make a new one. You can choose a new belief. And so that is really quite powerful when you think about it, because if we can change our underlying beliefs about what needs to be done, about who we are, how we show up, and we can interrupt that and go, wait, I'm going to choose a different belief and start working on that, a lot can happen in our lives. So she has these different ideas, like things you'd imagine. Add reminder to your calendar, choose a time to do it, get super excited about the thing you're doing, celebrate action, and trust the rewards will come. So if you do the action, and that's the whole concept around setting yourself up, having a plan, that will be inevitable when it leads to success. Okay, find somebody to hold you accountable. Yeah. I love this. The excuse is the habit. So, I was saying earlier, like, some people don't think they're good at making habits. If you're good at making excuses, then you're really great at making a habit, because creating an excuse is the actual habit. How fun is that? All right. Creating a mantra, really important. Know what trips you up. So I was talking about that earlier, the triggers. Like, if you spend time with this person, like I said, then you need to figure out, okay, how do I mitigate that? If you don't want to stop seeing that person, which is the obvious answer. But if somebody has, you just have a trigger or a soundtrack that gets you into a negative space, think in advance, how am I going to do that? Even with a restaurant. So you walk into a restaurant and you look at the menu and you automatically order the same thing. And it can be so on autopilot, right? And so what we want to do is interrupt that and go, wait a second, that's a trigger for me. What can I do differently instead of choosing that, but choose it before the trigger happens, right? That's really a key thing. And the two last things here. Page 174, she says, tiny moments determine if you are successful or unsuccessful, happy or unhappy. And it goes on to give a whole bunch of comparisons. And this is one of my core beliefs. It's the small tweaks that get the biggest results. That's one of the things I talk about in my book, Take Back Your Weekend. That's why we all are just sort of saying the same thing in different perspectives and hopefully different ways, so that if you need to hear something, it's like you might hear it from Jen and it resonates one way, and you hear it from me and it resonates another. And neither one is good nor bad. They're both hopefully great. It's just, what do you need? And one may be like, yeah, I don't care about that. And this other one's like, oh, mind blown. It's like why a leader of a team who's telling them to, block their time and, not worry about the small stuff and be focused and all those things, is struggling to get his team to be high performing and really productive. And then they hire somebody like me who comes in, and all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, hey, I'm going to do that. Like as if they'd never heard it before. Right? Well, leader's like, yeah, I've been telling them that for years. I used to get that a lot when I taught networking. Anyway, fun. Okay. So the last piece here that I just had so much fun in this book, I thought was great, is, before I go on, we've got a comment. Let's bring it up. Start logging the things that help your productivity. Make a work playlist, minimize the distractions that steal your progress, and schedule your breaks. Reward your good performance. Awesome. Greg and I are very aligned on the same page of this kind of thing. So yeah, that's exactly right. And what's neat about what you've said is you're looking for the triggers. You're looking for our best solutions are found in the stop. They're not found in the time when we're, in the middle of being absolutely chaotic and in the weeds of our workload. And it's like, just, I'm so overwhelmed and I got to get this done. I got to get this done. That's not when we got to make the right decisions that are going to change our behavior. We need to take a pause. That's why I do the resilience reset, right? It's still late enough in the day that you've got a full work day in, but if you haven't, you can still do some productivity after this. If I can rev you up and get you really excited about what you're doing. But we need to take a moment and say, is this something I really want to do? Is there a better way for me to approach this situation the next time it happens? Because a lot of the things that cause us overwhelm, a lot of the things that are taking us away from our sweet spot of performance and productivity and profitability are repetitive. They happen over and over and over again, which in fairness is very ironic because I just was repetitive about the word repetitive. I don't know. And then I was repetitive within the repetition. So I found that kind of funny. Anyway, but here's the thing. If something happens over and over and over again, and we don't do something about it, and then we bitch and complain when we're in the middle of it, who's that on? On us. And then I have to ask, are we addicted to be feeling overwhelmed? Are we addicted to feeling bad about ourselves? Like, are we addicted to feeling like I'm never going to get caught up, or that it's some sort of a badge of honor that we're busy, 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 busy? right? Like we got to figure that out, not when we're in the middle of the hectic, but before or after, so that we have a fighting chance to change it in the moment when it happens next time. Okay. And then there was one last thing I want to talk about, which was the cultivating confidence. And this is the day 15. Or maybe it's only 15 days of doing, not 21. Doesn't matter. 21. No, it is 21. Rinse, repeat. So day 15 is cultivating your confidence. And like confidence, she writes here, confidence means to confide in yourself, to trust in your own strength and smarts, to believe that I got this. And, you know, I often will talk, like one of the solution activation principles in the book is trust yourself, right? It's like we have to trust that we can become, right there, see? Trust yourself. And this is the confidence. So she says, act as if you're confident. And I'm okay with that, you know, doing all of the things. I'm just not a big fake it till you make it person. I feel like we as society, as humans, already have enough imposter syndrome. And so the way I believe we build confidence is to get very clear on what we bring to the table. Okay, so I may not know a lot about this. So for example, I work a lot in the financial sector as a speaker. And even yesterday, I had the privilege of being back with one of my clients, and they're in the financial space. And like, I know nothing. Like I know, so if I were basing my level of confidence on my ability to have a conversation about what they do on a day-to-day basis, I would have no confidence. And for me to say, fake it till you make it and try to go in there and act like I know what I'm doing would just make me an imposter or give me some sort of an imposter complex in the background. So instead, you have confidence by going around it. So what do you bring to the table? What points are you really, really good at? So I'm great at the productivity, at being okay and vulnerable with the human experience and all of our fumbles along the way. That is what I can bring to the table. Now, can't bring anything else on in their world. They could bring a lot to my table. And so that's okay. So just a little twist on the fake it till you make it idea. But she has a lot of other ideas here, like compiling proof, practice, make it about serving others, you know, surround yourself with cheerleaders. And remember, nobody really knows what the hell they're doing. So that was just one little chapter. But you can tell how much incredible thought-provoking power is in this book. So you've probably seen it because, as I mentioned earlier, the only reason I ended up reading it, I didn't intend to read it. I ended up reading it because it was the only personal development book on the shelf at Shoppers Drug Mart. And I was waiting for Amazon to deliver, and they were taking forever, if you could imagine. But that's what happens when you live in rural Ontario. Amazon doesn't come in a day. No. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, people. 2 weeks. Okay. There we go. Talked fast today, folks. I'm so glad you were here. Greg, thanks again for your comment. Amanda, I always love having you here with me too, so thank you. And to everybody else who is here, this has been the Resilience Reset. And I think when it comes to resilience, even building resilience into your life is a habit, right? Choosing not to get off track with your obstacles and getting sucked into other people's drama, getting, all of that. It's all habits. Every barrier to performance that I talk about in Take Back Your Weekends, Stress Less, Do More, Be Happier, is a habit. It's a way of doing the work we do. And some of the ways we do them are really effective, and other ways we do them are not as much. So I'd encourage you to first get my book if you haven't got it already. But if not, when you're done that one, go get hers. All right. So I will be back. It's Thursday. That means Monday to Thursday. So I won't see you until Monday again for the Resilience Reset, 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be back. So can't wait to see you next Monday. Thank you for being here. And dare I say, until next time, may you stress less, do more, and be happier.